You always picture early humans like having this big aha moment, right? Suddenly figuring out how to smash rocks together to make sharp tools.
Right, that classic image.
But what if that's not quite how it happened? What if the first tools weren't really invented like that at all?
That's exactly what we're getting into today. There's this really compelling new hypothesis that challenges that whole eureka idea about early stone tool use.
Yeah, it sounds fascinating. We're looking at research from Dr. Emma Feinstone at the Cleveland Museum of Natural History and Drs. Michelle Beber and Metin Aaron from Kent State. They published in Archaeometry.
hmm And they're really pushing back on this assumption of, sudden intentional creation being the only starting point.
The old idea was basically, need to cut something, okay, let's figure out how to make a sharp rock.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That the invention, the making part came first, driven by the need.
Okay, so our mission in this deep dive is to unpack this new hypothesis. What are these researchers actually proposing? And, what does it mean for how we understand early human development?
Well, the fundamental question they're tackling is, how did knapping actually start? The deliberate shaping of stone tools.
Right.
What were those very first steps?
And there's a great quote from Dr. Aaron that really makes you stop and think. He says something like, I don't think it was a eureka moment. There is no reason to produce sharp stone tools unless the need to cut is already in place.
It flips the script a bit, doesn't it?
Totally.
Instead of make tool, then find use, he's suggesting the need was there and maybe the solution was already lying around.
Which gets us to the core of this new idea, the concept of naturaliths.
Naturaliths, right. Naturally sharp rocks.
Yeah, rocks sharpened not by hominin hands, but by, geology.
Right.
Or other natural processes.
Exactly. Think rocks tumbling in streams, waves crashing on shores.
Oh, wow.
Even animals trampling over stones and fracturing them. These things can create surprisingly sharp edges.
So the idea is our ancestors might have just found these and used them.
Potentially, yes, for maybe millions of years, recognizing and using nature's ready-made sharp bits.
That really reframes early technology, doesn't it? Not invention, but recognition first.
It does. And you might think, okay, how common could these natural sharp rocks really be?
Yeah, that was my first thought. Finding a perfect arrowhead just lying there seems unlikely, right? Rare.
Well, that's what this research challenges. Based on fieldwork and reviewing existing literature, the team suggests these naturalists could have been produced pretty frequently in various environments. Maybe much more common than we've previously assumed.
Okay, so not so rare after all. I think Dr. Beber actually saw this firsthand.
That's right. Fieldwork in Oman.
Yeah.
She noted places where Mother Nature produced hundreds, maybe thousands of sharp rocks.
Wow, thousands. So a readily available resource, potentially?
Exactly. Like a landscape scattered with usable sharp edges.
And Dr. Feinstone's work in Kenya, doesn't that add to this?
It does. She found early hominin sites, places where they processed food,
Right.
located near natural stone sources, suggesting easy access.
So they didn't need to figure out how to make a sharp edge initially. They could just pick one up.
Precisely. Pick it up, use it to cut plants, process a carcass, whatever the immediate need was.
And there are examples of these natural sharp rocks found in different places.
Yeah, the researchers point to things like naturally shaped basalt near Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland
Okay.
from coastal action, and even sharp-edged stones found way down in the Antarctic Peninsula, just formed naturally.
So nature was providing these potential tools quite widely, which leads to the big question then.
Why start making them?
Exactly. If they were just lying around, why bother with knapping?
Well, the hypothesis suggests a couple of potential drivers for that transition.
Okay.
One possibility is availability. Maybe naturaliths weren't equally abundant everywhere.
Ah, so if a group moved into a new area that didn't have many natural sharp rock.
They might have been forced to figure out how to make their own. Necessity being the mother of invention, as they say.
Right. Makes sense.
And another factor could be wanting better tools, more specific tools.
How so?
Well, nature provides sharp edges, sure, but maybe not always the perfect edge or the right shape or the most durable stone for a particular job.
So intentional knapping gives you control. You can make it just right for what you need.
Exactly. Control over the form and the function.
So Dr. Aaron calls this the most parsimonious explanation so far, meaning the simplest fit for the evidence.
Yes, the simplest explanation that accounts for what we know. But, and this is important,
It's still a hypothesis.
it is. He stresses that it needs testing. We need archaeological evidence.
Which means looking for signs of use on these natural stones from way back, like 3 to 6 million years ago.
That's the challenge. Finding those subtle wear patterns, proving they were used by hominins and not just naturally banged up.
That sounds incredibly difficult.
It's a huge undertaking, for sure.
But if they do find that evidence, if this hypothesis holds up,
The implications are pretty significant. It could push back the timeline for tool use, not necessarily tool making by a considerable amount.
meaning our ancestors were interacting technologically with their environment much earlier than the first known made tools suggest.
Precisely. It suggests the beginning wasn't this sudden spark, but maybe a more gradual process, rooted in observing and using what the environment already offered.
A more passive start, almost. Recognizing resources.
In a way, yes. And it's worth noting this work got funding from Kent State University, highlighting how important this kind of academic research is.
Definitely. So the big takeaway here is this really intriguing idea that early tool use might have started simply by picking up nature's sharp cast-offs.
Not with a flash of inventive genius, but with opportunistic recognition.
It really changes the picture, doesn't it? From that aha moment to something more gradual, more integrated with the natural world.
A slower burn, perhaps, into becoming the tool-dependent species we are now.
It really makes you think, are there simple natural solutions around us today that we overlook because we're so focused on complex technology?
That's a fascinating thought. What natural tools might we be missing?
Something to ponder, for sure.
Definitely. And for anyone whose curiosity is piqued by this,
Yes.
the original study is in archaeometry. You can look it up using the DOI. It's 10.111 archimetal 13075. Lots more detail in there if you want to dive deeper yourself.
Great stuff. A really different perspective on our own deep past.